What's up, everybody? Let's Talk Jets Radio, the Monday after another ridiculous, heartbreaking loss. Jets dropped to 4-6. Essentially, their season's over. They've lost 3 in a row. Offense is averaging like 13 points a game. 1 touchdown in their last 15 quarters. 9 touchdowns on the offensive side of the ball in 10 games this year. It's just amazing when you look around the league, the number of backup quarterbacks, the number of rookie quarterbacks that are just filling in, making their offenses look good. You even got Tommy DeVito, who had -9 passing yards against the Jets. Suddenly, in 4 games, he's got more touchdowns than Zach Wilson. It's just absolutely embarrassing and such a shame what this season has turned into. And then, of course, to make matters worse or better, depending on how you want to look at it, of course, they come out today and say that Tim Boyle is now going to be the starting quarterback. Can't wait to hear Saleh's press conference and his interview later on the Michael Kay Show. But, you know, the fact that they're doing this now at 4-6, it's just a complete chicken shit move. Like, why are you waiting now to do this when the season's basically over? At 4-6, you're not running the table. You're not winning 7 in a row or 6 out of 7 to maybe save your season and give yourself a shot at the wild card. You waited too long. You blew it already. You sat around and you watched as this offense couldn't get it together. The same problems that you had all of last year, you allowed them week after week after week to continue. You got a false sense of hope when the team was actually winning some games, and you said, oh, you know, maybe this year will be different. Maybe the kid's actually going to learn. Maybe he's actually going to grow. And listen, unfortunately now, the Jets have a major problem because even if Boyle or, you know, if they turn to Siemian eventually, even if they play like shit, unfortunately, you're never really going to know what they would have did if you played them earlier in the year, because at that point earlier in the year, you had guys that were still motivated. Like right now, everybody's pretty much checked out. And I expect that it's probably going to be that way the rest of the year. You have a coach now that's on the hot seat. You have an offensive coordinator that nobody believes in other than your quarterback who's injured. Like, you're going to start seeing guys mail it in. So what kind of evaluation are you really going to get on Boyle or Siemian? Who knows? But if they do play well, then that opens up just a whole nother can of worms as far as why did you wait so long? And I don't expect Boyle to be much better. I'd be shocked if at some point, you know, Siemian eventually gets the ball and, you know, he's not a major upgrade either. Like, I don't expect them to do a whole lot with this offense. This offense has many flaws, including the play caller, including the offensive line, which has had seemingly injuries every single week. Like, there's a lot wrong with this offense. But I do believe that if the Jets would have made the change weeks ago, before guys started to really press, and before there was this feeling of, here we go again, and guys starting to quit, maybe you could have saved the season. Who knows? Maybe you couldn't have. Maybe it was always destined to be this way. But I see way too many people out there right now saying, oh, well, you know, even if they had Rodgers, this is what the Jets offense would have been. And I'm sorry, but I don't believe that at all. You know, I stand by what I said, that I felt that this was a team that was a quarterback away from competing for something pretty significant this year. And unfortunately, with the injuries at quarterback, a lot of things got exposed. The quarterback, the play caller, the wide receivers beyond Garrett Wilson. Even Garrett himself has had, you know, fumbles the last couple weeks. You know, it seems like everything that could possibly go wrong with this offense has gone wrong. And I do think it trickles down from the quarterback. I've said that from the beginning. Zach is very limited. He holds on to the ball forever. He limits your playbook. He stares down his receivers. He takes unnecessary sacks. They clearly don't have a sense of trust in him to just sling the ball week after week. They try to manage him. They try to keep these games close. And ultimately, when you do need your quarterback to make a big play late in the game, you know, there were some times where we got lucky and the defense bailed us out, and other times where you needed your quarterback to step up and he just couldn't get the job done. And it's just such a shame that after what happened last year and the locker room quitting on him, that Saleh thought it was a good idea to just completely run the entire thing back. Saleh and Joe Douglas thought it was a good idea to run the entire thing back. And the fact that they also said they were reinventing this offense. I mean, think about that part for a second. If you knew that you had to reinvent your offense in order to make it work for your backup quarterback, why the fuck is he your backup quarterback anyway? If you have to pretty much install a brand new offense because your QB2 can't do what your QB1 does, then you got a problem with who your QB2 is, and you got to look somewhere else. And so the whole thing goes back to training camp, back to the summer, when you brought Aaron Rodgers in, knowing where Zach was mentally after having the locker room quit on him, getting his starting job taken away from him, learning a new offense now. The idea that he was going to be ready as QB2 never made any sense. And then the fact that they waited 3 weeks after Rodgers got hurt, and the only move that they could make was Trevor Siemian, who's still 2 months into the building now, still not ready to play in a game. Maybe he'll be ready to dress this week and Zach will be inactive, but still not ready apparently to start. That was the only move that the Jets can make at quarterback. Trevor Siemian, who at 4-6, still isn't ready to start for the New York Jets at quarterback after how putrid their offense has been. And I'm seeing stuff now, did the Jets let Zach Wilson down? Did they fail him? I think it's a different situation from Sam Darnold. I was very adamant, most of you guys remember, I was very, very adamant that the New York Jets completely failed Sam Darnold, where this was a quarterback at the end of his first year, those final 4 games, he was going toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson. He had some big games. QBR was through the roof those final few games. And then you bring in Adam Gase, you bring in Dowell Loggins, you take away his best receiver, you don't give him any receivers, you don't give him any offensive line. It's like, all right, well, what do you expect the kid to do? He's learning an offense that even former players have said just never made any sense as far as the verbiage goes and how complex it was for really how simple it was. So it's no wonder that Darnold failed. And for Zach, the only way I'll say that the Jets failed him is by playing him too soon, which is something that we should have learned from Darnold, something we should have learned from Geno, Sanchez. Almost every young rookie quarterback that we get, for some reason, we feel a need to just throw them right into the fire before they're really ready. And in Zach's case, it was beyond clear that he was not ready. You would get a couple wow throws here and there, but as far as doing any of the little things consistently, look at where he's at now in year 3. All right, we're touting all these little things that he's doing as progress, yet he's still one of the worst quarterbacks in football. The offense can still barely score a touchdown. So think back now to where he was as a rookie, when he was legitimately locked in on his first target as soon as he got the ball, where he was actually throwing a lot more interceptions. Has he cleaned a few things up? Yeah, but he's also playing cautious. He's playing scared, or he's being coached scared. Whatever it is, it's not working. The progress has been minimal. So to think that that's where he's at now, well, think about where he was at as a rookie. Obviously, everybody in the locker room knew it. The hope was that his physical ability would eventually take over. It didn't. So if you want to blame the Jets for anything, first-time head coach, first-time coordinator, hey, maybe sit the kid for a year, 2 years, and then you throw him in there. They played him right away. It didn't work. They let LaFleur take the fall. They bring in a new offensive coordinator. It all works out. They get their guy in Rodgers. But somehow, in spite of all that, they allowed Zach to enter this year as QB2. And it's something that feels unforgivable because there was no reason to allow this season to be thrown away with the hopes that Zach Wilson would make progress. Maybe with any other vet backup, maybe we're talking about the same thing, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. You watch some of these other teams and what they're doing with backup quarterbacks, being able to actually put up points and touchdowns. You see how far ahead some rookies are from where Zach is in year 3. It's like, no wonder the Jets are losing these games. No wonder they can't score more than a touchdown a game. No wonder the defense is starting to quit now, as expected, as we saw last year. Like, there's only so long that you can have your defense carry you when your offense isn't putting up points. It's such a shame that they decided to literally throw this season away, to not even give themselves a chance, all because they wanted to take a further look at Zach Wilson. Like, it's honestly sickening when you really break it down and you really think about it. All the decisions that had to go into this. Again, knowing where he was last year. Knowing where he was physically as a quarterback and mentally, having the locker room quit on him. Learning a new offense. Yeah, why not? Bring him back as QB2. Joe Douglas deserves a lot of shit for this. And the crazy part is, as much as you want to blame Joe Douglas or Saleh or Hackett, whoever you want to throw it on, I'll keep saying it. And I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, but nobody is going to be fired. You can take that to the bank. Nobody is going to be held accountable for this season. Douglas isn't going anywhere. Saleh's not going anywhere. Hackett's not going anywhere. Because ultimately, Aaron Rodgers is going to be calling all the shots. If he wants all those guys back, they're all going to be back. And now this is where you get into a real problem. What does the future hold for the New York Jets? You can't trust your quarterback. You can't trust your head coach unless he's got a brilliant quarterback to cover up all his faults. You can't trust your offensive coordinator, who's basically the same thing as Adam Gase with Peyton Manning. You give him a great quarterback, that'll cover it up, maybe you can win. Anybody or anything else, it's going to be a shit show. Your GM has one great draft where he's got 2 top 10 picks. Everything else, you got busts, you got injuries, you got guys like Elijah Moore and Denzel Mims and Michael Carter. You know, they show you some things early, then they're gone. You whiffed on the number 2 pick at quarterback. Almost the entire draft class this year has barely done anything. Tippmann, the best pick there. McDonald's starting to come on a little bit. Offensive line is a mess. I just don't know what you say about the future of this team and how you try to spin it as the Jets having any kind of positive outlook going forward. They had so many chances to try to salvage this season, and they chose to completely waste it, hoping Zach Wilson would figure it out, hoping Zach Wilson would turn it around. Like, forget June and July and in April when you could have signed your veteran then. The second Rodgers got hurt, you were 1-0 at the time. You were 1-0. It just doesn't make any sense to me. They had cap space to use. And again, who knows how far they could have went? Who knows if they even would have been a playoff team? But I guarantee you, we're not talking about this team being 4-6 right now. They're not losing that Patriot game. Probably not losing that Raider game either. Just such a shame.